The big question. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has owned the superhero genre for more than 10 years, but even with new leadership, new projects, and ambitious plans, might DC films one day surpass MCU ones? It is a question most fans are wondering while both universes are changing. The battle between Marvel and DC has been a long-standing one in the comic book arena, but while translating to the big screen, Marvel has been on the upper hand until now. It seems reasonable to wonder whether this tide is finally about to turn as DC prepares for a major reboot in the near future under new management. A comparative analysis of the two extremes of the film industry. To understand if DC can overtake Marvel, we need to take a closer look at both universes, their past, present, and proposed strategic developments. The MCU, started with a movie called Iron Man in 2008, is now very successful. In the last 15 years, it has created an epic picture story composed of dozens of films and superheroes as Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Thor. The formula that was successful for MCU is humor, constant action, and depth of characters that was loved by viewers all around the world. Movies like Avengers Endgame showed that a complex web of a plot is feasible and can pay off in a huge way. Marvel has therefore not been left behind in its success by failing to set a clear vision. During Kevin Feige's tenure at Marvel, the company perfectly linked every character's personal journey with the major storyline that reached its climax in the Infinity Saga. The MCU also proved adept at embracing multiple genres. Superhero films blended with spy thrillers like Captain America, an intense drama like Winter Soldier, sci-fi such as Guardians of the Galaxy. It helped them maintain the variety of their content and interest across a broad audience. DC, on the other hand, has had a more volatile journey, more specifically to how its company structure and changed over time. The DC, which started officially in 2013 with Man of Steel, failed to emulate Marvel's success. The DC from the outset aimed at the same level as MCU, but fluctuating reviews, hasty narrative, cast and crew reshuffling compromised the ground. Shining a light onto these films termed Batman v Superman and Justice League. The audience in some cases, and even the box office, received these motion pictures negatively. Nevertheless, to sustain hits, DC proved that it could still do so long as it opted to tell individual stories like Wonder Woman and Aquaman. The new era, the reboot of DC, and Marvel's troubles. While many factors are pulling the DC Comics and Warner Bros. Cinematic universes apart, some new concepts such as James Gunn and Peter Safran's help the DC Universe, or DCU, to achieve success. Many supporters of Gunn as the director that in charge of movies such as Guardians of the Galaxy and The Suicide Squad, people believe that Gunn can and will bring out the same creative humor and warmth to DC movies. Their plan to reboot and unify the DC Universe, starting with projects like Superman. While the closely associated New 52 and Flashpoint numbers could be dismissed as mere coincidence, the similarity in scores with subsequent series like The New 52 Legacy and The Brave and the Bold looks like a deliberate effort to reclaim the longevity story hits that Marvel boasted of. Taking a look forward, one major area that DC might have won in is that the films could vary in tone and style. One way in which they differ is that the MCU has somewhat a uniform feel to most of the films. Fun, with action and some comedy bits thrown into the mix for good measure, while DC can take a varied approach. Hollywood's such gross of movies like Joker and The Batman proved that even darker, grimmer, and more disconnected tales could be captivating to both the audience and the critics. DC has also expressed the capacity to try out darker topics, and that equally sell, like in Joker, which, though it had a limited budget than Avengers and a darker theme, made more than $1 billion. Currently, Marvel is experiencing some difficulties. During the end of the Infinity Saga, fans have complained that now, with Phase 4 and Phase 5, Marvel is not as focused or as exciting as it was. While shows like WandaVision and Loki have been praised for their creativity, films like Eternals and Thor: Love and Thunder are divided at best. Some fanbelt has claimed that the MCU has lost steam. Therefore, another risk which Marvel is exposed to is trying to introduce new heroes who are not as culturally infamous as the old heroes. Since distinctive characters such as Iron Man and Captain America have vacated their positions, Marvel now needs to create new inspirational figures that can have as great impact. If someone like Iron Man and Captain America is not instantly a major player, then of course characters such as Shang-Chi, Ms. Marvel, and the Eternals will be more obscure and will take time to grow into the roles. Building on diversity and the fatigue of the audience, Marvel and DC are actually experiencing the problem of superhero overload. It can be noted that over the course of the cinema season more than 10 years, movies with superheroes became the leading trend, and perhaps the audience is already tired of such productions. Marvel, with its very complex program interconnected into one universe, could potentially confuse the layman and ask for him to watch multiple films and shows to even have a basic understanding. The core audience of the fans will remain loyal by watching the subsequent movies, but the widening gap is that the common movie watchers may lose interest. DC, on the other hand, gets the chance to tell single issues that won't need a deep dive into continuity and storyline. The reception of The Batman and Joker suggests people still consume content in the genre of superheroes, most of all, if done differently. Thus, while Marvel is concentrated on constructing the cinematic universe, DC has a unique opportunity to try even darker tones and separate solo movies. The overloud change in DC's direction with Gunn and Safran leading is an electrifying start. If they are able to come up with a coherent universe in which they can play around and take chances, then they aren't just appealing to comic book superfans, but everybody in the world who likes watching good movies with good stories. Moreover, DC has some of the characters defined as the legends of comic books worlds, such as Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, as well as a whole Justice League. If such characters are properly addressed, they provide the possibility to return to the loved and well-known characters which were popular all over the world. Such lineup of dark, mature movies together with typical superhero epics might work in the favor of DC seeking to offer viewers more diversified cinema experience in comparison with Marvel. Casting and character development, the key to success. Yet another area of focus is to find out how both studios manage casting choices and translating their characters in the future. The MCU has done an amazing work of popularizing hitherto rather unknown characters, though the examples of Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Strange, and others could hardly be considered unknown. Now, Marvel has to prospect the major characters like the Eternals and Shang-Chi that have to follow the traditions of the first superheroes. While MCU is ready to leave behind Phase 1 heroes like Iron Man and Captain America, it becomes a possibility that new characters may not be as popular. DC instead at least is given an opportunity to redefine some of its classic characters. That's why, with James Gunn starting anew after the Snyder's Cut, people could see a new incarnation of the Superman character or a new Batman and the rest of the Justice League. Casting will be key here. If DC is able to correctly cast these characters, it is certainly possible for them to build a new generation of iconic actors, as like the MCU's Evans, Downey Jr., or Johansson. This was always a Marvel's strong suit. After all, RDJ brought Tony Stark to life, and Chris Evans transformed Steve Rogers into Captain America. Just as Marvel has been able to acquire value forwards, DC will need similar strong performances to prop it up against Marvel. Evildoers, on-demand shows, and growing worlds. Moreover, the performances of villains and supporting characters influence cinematic universes to an enormous extent. MCU has some great villains such as Thanos and Loki. However, some comic book enthusiasts have noted that the MCU has issues with his villains. Even this could be another area where DC can take an advantage. Good villains like the Joker, Lex Luthor, and Darkseid are already on the list of powerful villains known across comic book universe. But perhaps in creating better villains whom their heroes must face, DC might just further add a new emotional level that would be better appreciated by their fans. There is perhaps no area more central to comic book reading than characters, and one where DC already had a significant lead is the Rogues Gallery. Antagonists such as newly introduced Joker and Harley Quinn are as much loved as the protagonists and get as many scenes in the related movies. Marvel, on the other hand, is probably exploring its heroes much more and featuring a significantly lower number of main, classic villains. In turn, DC could enhance darker, multifaceted the motives of villains, as it will provide the company with more interesting narratives. Vertically speaking, looking even further ahead, both Marvel and DC will have to learn new tricks of the trade taken by streaming and other digital content. Most of Marvel's Disney Plus series like Loki, WandaVision, has overemphasized the episodic aspect of MCU storytelling, allowing for more character work and plot testing. Expect the same from DC as the HBO Max series Peacemaker and another one, Lanterns, possibly delving deeper into B characters and plots. Stable success on the streaming platforms will be important for both studios to continue attracting the audience in the world dominated by the digital experience. Conclusion: can DC overtake the MCU? As we look toward the future, the ultimate question remains: can DC surpass Marvel in the level of popularity? This is not easy to answer, and there are few factors that define the approaches. First, these are time factors which are highly significant in influencing this process. The MCU has been under construction since 2008, forged devoted audience, and codified the tactic of cinematic releases year by year. In the follow-up phases, there has been a few hiccups, but all in all, Marvel has demonstrated a great long-term narrative plan is responsive. DC, in turn, requires considerable accrued pace, although the requirement to continue the creation of their cinematic universe at the same tempo as MCU, do they need to learn from the latter's experience in terms of success and failures. Thankfully, a possible scenario lies in the future of James Gunn and Peter Safran's grand reimagining of the DCU. Secondly, content quality shall be the key determinant in this plan. At the same time, Marvel has the problem of preventing itself from got tired of superheroes and superhero movies, as well as to introduce new characters and new stories which will be interesting for viewers. DC, however, is starting anew and can come up with new, thrilling stories without the excesses that characterized the past. If DC continually releases good quality films which are creative and revolutionary, they stand a chance of getting the appreciation of the existing DC cartoon fans and those who do not watch DC cartoons regularly. It's last but not least, the fan experience and attaching importance to emotions. For Marvel, the greatest strength of this company has been the way it forms deep emotional bonds with viewers as well as consumers. DC can only do the same if they are to challenge and surpass Marvel Comics on the charts. With character-based stories, especially where Superguy, Batman, and Wonder Woman are involved, DC might establish a new phase of superhero supremacy. Therefore, long though the MCU might reign supreme in the domain of superhero moving pictures today, DC stands well situated to usurp that crown. With renewed leadership, innovative ideas, and some of the most popular characters to come out of the comic books, DC has all it needs to climb to the top. The real question is whether they are able to deliver their concepts to the audience in a compelling and long-term appealing manner. And that's it for today's Marvel vs. DC battle. Which side do you think wins? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more superhero face-offs. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.